It includes myself, Steve Tate, Larry Carr, Juan Miguel Munoz Morris, and Mario Banuelos. And I think we're going to add probably one more member to that committee. We look forward to hearing from businesses in town and their challenges during these difficult times and seeing how the Chamber can really help our businesses. We're looking forward also to working with the city and working with them through the economic blueprint. With that said, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today, Dan McCranie, and his presentation on the EDES Building Art Gallery. Dan?
Great. Good morning, everybody. This is my first time to actually share a screen. So, A, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
You got it. Yeah.
Great. And obviously hear my voice. Great. Okay, so first off, thanks a lot, Brittany, for inviting me to this. So what I want to talk about is a new project that we launched in December. I launched it in July or August of 2020. We went to the City Council to get design permit approval, as you can see here, on December 16th, 2020. And it was for a new structure. And it was accepted. Before I go on, I want to thank everybody who helped in this. We got some extraordinary letters from individuals that are associated with downtown Morgan Hill. We got a lot of support from John Lang, Tiffany Brown, Edith Ramirez, Leslie Little, the City Council people. It was really kind of it made me feel very good to see how well it was received, because frankly, as I'm going to show you here in a second, I wasn't exactly sure how it was going to be received. So just to get you oriented into what we're talking about here, this is apparently a more than 5-year-old view, aerial view of downtown Morgan Hill. This is Monterey. This is south, so it's oriented correctly on the screen here. This is Ladera Grill. I always got to get that in. And this is now a vacant lot. It's been a vacant lot for about the last 4+ years. If you remember, I bought this about 6 years ago. We demolished it in 2017, and we set up a pop-up park. So the location of this building is going to be in what's a pop-up park at the corner of Monterey and 2nd. So this is why I was a little anxious. What I wanted to do, first I should tell you what my thoughts are. Some of you may know I also have I'm the owner of a restaurant on 3rd and Monterey called Ladera Grill, but you may not know that I'm also the owner of a custom frame shop and now a small gallery located at the corner of Monterey and 1st. It's called Calibri Gallery. My thought was to get practice on that small gallery and then to build a larger gallery on my lot. And so we had practice for about 1.5 years in Calibri, and I felt now was the time to start it. So we launched it in 2020. Because it's going to be an art gallery, I wanted to have a more contemporary look and contemporary feel. At the same time, I asked the architects and the designers to make sure they used appropriate materials, or Morgan Hill appropriate materials, so that we could soften the contemporary look quite a bit. So the use of certain types of concrete, glass, natural wood on the facing here, this type of structure was our effort to mute the contemporary nature of the structure. We also made it 2 stories. We've got it sloping here, as you can see, so that it doesn't just explode off of this first, up here, explode off of this first story structure here, which is currently Beddoes. So that was the whole purpose of this structure. You can see that it's we've got some activation on 2nd Street. This is 2nd Street here. This is Monterey. We got some activation on 2nd Street where you can see some people sitting. I will talk about that in a second. You've got transparency here, the stairways going up. You've got skylines here. You've got exposed area here where people can go out. There's about a 6-foot railing out here so they can see some things on the 2nd floor. Let me go to the next photo here. That was a daytime view, artist rendition. This is a nighttime view. I think you can also tell that our proposal is to clean up the sidewalk and modify and beautify the sidewalk and the structures that are currently in the sidewalk. You may be familiar, there's actually some old metal structures here, which house, I think they house the city's audio visual. I'm not sure what they house, but we're working with the city to try to make sure that's removed. We'll have recessed lighting and kind of a different look. This is the, over here, if you can see where my arrow is, this is going to be the wheelchair access point. And it goes up and you can turn here and then you can get in through here. As I said, it's going to be 2 stories. It's going to be some accessibility on Monterey to the outside here. And here you can get a better appreciation of the activation on 2nd Street. Okay, this is a view from, let's say if you were across the street at Steve Pace's place on maybe on the 2nd floor, to kind of give you a sense that we're not trying of the size of the building. So once again, I think it's aligned with the general sizes of the structures currently in downtown Morgan Hill, and won't be too obtrusive. But what this gives you a better view of the wheelchair access here, some of the planning landscape work here. You can get a kind of sense of the inside of the gallery, the size of the steps here. Of course, we can have elevators over here. Now let's go here. Okay, this is the 2nd Street view. There's been a couple changes. Of course, I haven't gotten the city council approval yet, but I'm sure that'll happen. What we're going to do is I'd like to have a small cafe capability on the back here. So if you see here, if you've got people sitting outside, we are working now on a very small kitchen area around here. You'll still be able to look through and see art. At least you see the 2D and hopefully some of the 3D art through the windows here. I'd like to have access here in 2nd Street, and of course access over on Monterey. And I'd like to have the ability to have indoor and outdoor, maybe 16 covers. So a very small cafe, but something to kind of augment the gallery experience and allow some guests to come in. You can see we have seating capability here along 2nd Street. And all this works because we're going to kind of clean up what's on the sidewalks right now. And this is as I said, the view there from nighttime. It gives you the same type of look. It also, as I said, shows you height and massing. So 1st story here, 2-story across the street, and kind of a bridge by having this contemporary structure right here. Okay, here's the plan usage. If you remember, I was going to build a 3-story facility about 4 years ago, but frankly, it proved economically awkward and actually economically difficult. But more important than that, it was just too much complications trying to have dining on the top floor in a very narrow structure. And I wanted a gallery anyway in the first 2 floors, so I've just modified it for a fine art gallery on both floors. The building, if you remember a few years ago, I was going to call the EDES building in honor of the original building that was there in the 1910 to 1930 timeframe. I still want to do that. I still want to have representation of the EDES building, and I'll be talking about that in the coming months. So we're going to have a fine art gallery on both floors. It'll give us a total of about 6,000 square feet, which is a large gallery, actually 4,800 square feet if you take out the bathrooms and the elevator and such. I'm gonna have custom framing design center on the 2nd floor toward the back. I'm doing that for, well, actually, I should state right here, I want to have 5 revenue channels in this spot. So I have fine art gallery on both floors. I'm going to have custom framing design. I have my custom framing production in Morgan Hill, about 1.5 miles away from downtown. So this will just be the design center on the 2nd floor. As I mentioned in the previous slide, I'm going to have indoor outdoor cafeteria on the 1st floor, open to the 2nd Street entrance, as well as, of course, walking through the main gallery and getting to it. On the 2nd floor and on the 1st floor, I want to have, I'm working with interior designers now to get kind of flexible walls. I like to have this building available for special events, not only for artist presentations and if you will, promoting certain artists, but also for special events that may come up for non-gallery use. And then finally, I'd like to have starting with Calibri this year and building it out as we forward. I'd like to have us to start working with the artist community in South County, and therefore I want to have this capability of supporting artist workshops on the second floor. I'm a very amateur artist, and I've been to a lot of these workshops over the years in various locations. I think they're a great draw for any city. I know they are, and they're just great fun. But you need certain things in order to really have a successful workshop. And I think working with the interior designers, I want to have that capability to make those adjustments. So that's 5 revenue vectors, if you will, for this particular facility. This shows a aerial view from the east looking west, just to give you a sense of the size of the building and its size relative to the rest of the buildings surrounding it. Okay, there's an urban apologize. Excuse me. Hey, this is the urban field study peer review that was done. It kind of speaks to the area here. It's about 40 by 160. Talks about the design that would use vertical wood siding, glass, and metal, and our efforts to make it a thoughtful design in a corner location. We have a lot of activation for outdoors, as you can tell. We're hoping that kind of aids our desire to have this be a walking community and a walking downtown. And we hope, frankly, as an art gallery, it could serve as a catalyst for downtown commercial businesses. With that, this is my current schedule. The first was to identify, well, once we first to get the design permit, design review completed, to identify, get the key contractor teams, which is the architects, the interior designers, engineering groups, building contractors, etc. All that's done. Contracts have been signed. We're now meeting twice a week remotely to kind of get this thing moving fast. The next phase, of course, is get the schematics and engineering completed and submitted to Morgan Hill for review relative to a building permit. The architects and the contractors and I are hoping to have this done by the end of spring of 2021. We think that's possible. The only thing well, actually, I don't think anything's going to slow us up right now. I was worried about complications in the interior design, but we have a very strong group that's working with us now, and I'm feeling better about that. I'm hoping to get Morgan Hill City building permit granted on Q3 2021, and frankly, to start construction phase on 2nd Street in Q3 2021. If I do, it should be about 1 year, I think, to where I have the gallery and the cafe open for business. So that's it. I wanted to kind of give you a quick update, and I'm open for any questions.
So any questions for Dan? Larry?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Exciting. Thanks for joining us this morning. A couple of quick things. You mentioned that you need to go back on the cafe because that's an addition. What kind of approvals are needed for that, and how can we help?
Thanks, Larry. I actually don't know. I just started talking with the interior designer on this. But if you remember, I did not include that in the discussion we had there. It was just a sitting area. So I'm meeting actually this afternoon at 2 o'clock with the interior designer, where we're taking first look at the little kitchen, very small kitchen area in the cafeteria structure, and I'll have better answers for you after this 2 o'clock meeting today.
Great.
And I would like to take advantage of everybody. And if I didn't say it before, I do want to thank everybody that came forward on this project. I was very surprised and gratified.
Yeah.
And grateful.
So we'd like to continue helping in however we can with changes like that. Talk to us for just a minute, Dana. Maybe this is way too premature about how you see construction going, how that affects downtown, and again how the chamber and the downtown association can help with making sure everyone knows how construction is going to work.
You bet. We're still working on that, but I have a couple things that have happened, and of course this is going to be recorded, so it's going to become fact. We have talked to Frank Leal about using part of his space for staging.
Okay.
And he's agreed. Of course, now that this is recorded, he's agreed forever, right?
It's on record.
On record. In addition to that, we're working with another business owner down there for some moderate staging across Second Street. So right now, talking with Kent Construction, I think that's going to allow us to handle this without ever having to shut down streets. If you remember last time, Larry, when I had that larger building with an awful lot of power, we were talking about actually having PG&E, the power vault, if you will, across Second Street in an area which the city owns right now. I actually think if we can keep the whole thing under 500 amps, which I believe we can, that we're not going to have to deal with messing up Second Street even for a few days. So keep your fingers crossed. The goal is to make this as non-disruptive as possible. We're going to have to tear up Second Street sidewalk area, but I think that whole area will be kind of torn up anyway during construction. So I'll give you more information as the weeks progress with the contractors.
That's great. And again, let us know how we can help in getting that word out and getting, the kind of cooperation that you'll need for a downtown construction project. We haven't done that in Morgan Hill in a long time. So it'll be exciting to have it happen, and there'll need to be a lot of coordination. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Armando, you're on mute.
Hey, Dan, I have a question. How did you determine, or what criteria do you use to come to the 5 sources of revenue for this business?
I didn't hear the first part, Armando.
How did you determine, or what criteria did you use to come up with 5 sources of revenue? Because that's interesting and could be a little business lesson for a lot of our business owners in Morgan Hill.
Well, let's hope so. It goes without saying that galleries in non-tourist, non-destination cities struggle. And I always knew that, Armando, and I was willing, I and my family were willing to put up with losses, sustained losses, in order to have what I think would just be a real nice addition to downtown Morgan Hill, and actually to generate another facet of Morgan Hill above just the wineries. But in the process of thinking through it, I thought, well, the first thing we came up with, of course, was framing. Generally, people who enjoy engaging in custom framing tend to like art, and so the first obvious vector was to set up a custom framing operation. We moved all the custom framing design. We moved all the actual build off-site, because that's just a waste of space for downtown Morgan Hill. In doing that, I thought, well, that's 2 sources of revenue, right? That's the gallery sales plus the framing operation. And then I knew I wanted to have workshops. I wanted the EDES building. I wanted the gallery itself to be kind of hopefully a focal point for artists in the South County area. So that became the third. I thought if I was going to set that up, maybe I could actually rent out during evenings for special events, at least the second floor of the gallery. So it became the 4th source of revenue. And I originally envisioned that I was going to actually move food and do the Type 43, Type 47 liquor license transfers back and forth from Ladera for those special events. But then I thought, well, why not just have a very small kitchen? You're not going to serve full course meals in these special events. And so I thought I'd put a small kitchen in. And then once I did that, I thought if I could just have a small access on Second Street, indoor, outdoor, maybe 12 to 16 covers, that could be a small but 5th source of revenue. So I figure with all that, perhaps I won't lose money forever in an art gallery. And I'm hoping for that anyway.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
Any other questions for Dan? I guess, Dan, you mentioned local artists. Are you going to have any theme for the rest of the art that you display and sell there?
That's a great question. And when I said local artists, the gallery, it's going to be a fair-sized gallery. It's not going to be only local artists. It's going to be worldwide artists. And we're currently negotiating with artists right now the genre we're working with right now is impressionist, realist, mostly representational art. We've just started engaging with some of the more abstract artists, extraordinary artists that actually live in the San Francisco area and north. So I'm thinking with the size of this gallery, and the interior designers told me this is possible, I can actually have a very eclectic presentation here and still not look too chopped up, if you know what I mean. Because I've got 2 floors, and I've got, you know, if we do it right, it's not going to look like you're moving immediately from impressionist watercolors to abstract oils. So I'd like to try to have it as broad as possible. Once again, it's part of it is revenue, part of it is kind of for interest. Not everybody has the same taste in art. It'd be wonderful if they could have a single gallery they could go to and at least find something that kind of resonates with them. So right now, I'm going to try to make it fairly broad. I'm not going to have it either representational or abstract or even in terms of media. You know, at one time I was thinking, well, maybe I'll just stay away from the very high-priced oils, but I'm not sure I'm not going to do that anymore. So we're going to have media-wise, there's going to be plein air oils, there'll be pastels, there'll be pen and ink, there'll be watercolor. There'll also be full-size oils as well, and acrylics, and eucaustic. So wish me luck. I mean, it's 4,500 square feet, maybe it's 3,800 square feet by the time I carve out the small kitchen and cafe. That's still a pretty good sized gallery. Oh, thank you very much, whoever did that for me. Probably Tiffany, Brittany, excuse me. Yeah, so the whole first floor can be gallery. And the second floor to say, I apologize, guys. I didn't take him out for the morning walk. I'm cranky right now.
I get the same way.
Let me go on mute so I can yell at him. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Dan?
This is Edith. Rick, good morning, everybody. Hi, Dan. Hi, everybody. Just want to say, first of all, good morning. Dan, I think that on behalf of the city of Morgan Hill, we just want to thank you for this investment. Even as thoughtful as you have been, you're still not sure when, if ever, you're going to make money on this project. So clearly, this is a project and an investment of passion, of a vision, of something that you see the potential of Morgan Hill continuing to grow in the arts and culture. And I think the city is incredibly lucky to have you and to have this investment. So I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation on how do we support not only just the project, but how do we support growing arts and culture in the community as part of our vision.
Hey, thanks, Edith. I do too. I wanted to start engaging as quickly as possible to the limit that I can, but I went to Ellie Honnell, who's my gallery manager at Calibri, to start engaging. I think this could be a great addition. I also think I noticed, you know, most of my business is dining right now, and except a small amount of framing and gallery. And I noticed that as the activity in the last decade, downtown has been just extraordinary in terms of the number of people that come to all these restaurants. But, you know, that's pretty much it. We have some interesting businesses, but I think we could probably do with expanding those businesses in retail, non-dining retail. And what I was hoping for is that this corner lot and having this concept could be kind of a catalyst for energizing even more non-retail dining experiences in downtown Morgan Hill. And I'll say it the third time, Morgan Hill's always been a special place, downtown particularly, and it has become a special place because of the elected officials in Morgan Hill, the city, the paid officials in Morgan Hill, and the businesses and the people. It's really, I think Morgan Hill is going to have an extraordinary success, and I'd like to be helpful.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Dan. Please let us know if we can help in any way. And we wish you the best of luck and look forward to seeing the construction start and having the gallery open.
Me too. So far, I'm getting a lot of positive news about how fast we can get started. So I'll let you know if I see anything start to slow this down.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, so next we will hear from Steve McGrath of One Yoga. Steve?
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you all. When Brittany invited me, I said, I'm not sure it's the right time, given we have been closed for almost a year after opening for only a short time. But I think it's probably worth talking through the challenges that we have and that we're going to face, how perhaps some ideas of how, or ways we've been able to keep things going in terms of our business through this difficult time. I am going to look at share my host disabled participant screen sharing. Brittany, can you give me my screen? Because I did I've got two things to share actually. Can everyone see that?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Not just yet, Steve.
Maybe I gotta share. Hang on.
Okay, go ahead and share now.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Perfect.
There you go.
Okay. And let's do that. How's that? Can everyone see that? So I just thought I'd reflect, I guess, back on the presentation I gave in this speaker series, the Choose Morgan Hill. You know, Edith, who has been very helpful, and John, but invited me to speak at this at the Choose Morgan Hill speaker series. And now, you know, a couple of years ago, and so when I was looking for content for what I was going to talk about today, I just thought I'd reflect back on this presentation. This is sort of that was then and what we were looking forward to, and kind of elaborate on where we are now. So, you know, if you don't know, my wife and I own a studio in Los Gatos called Yoga Source. We opened in downtown Los Gatos in 2002. We've moved a couple of times the studio. We now occupy a pretty large building in downtown on Los Gatos Boulevard, about 10,000 square feet. Where pre-COVID, we had between 400 and 600 people a day practicing yoga with us. We also have several revenue streams. Our group classes is one of them. We have a pretty significant retail footprint in our studio in Los Gatos, and also now in Morgan Hill, which I'll get to. We have a retreat program where we take people to gorgeous locations in Bali, Tulum, Mexico, Paris, France, Florence, Italy. We've been all over, and when we are open and able to travel, we take people to these locations. And we also have a teacher training component to our business. We are a Yoga Alliance teacher training institute. The Yoga Alliance is the kind of governing body for yoga, and we are an institute with them. We have some 300 people who are graduates of our program. Okay, so this is my coming to Morgan Hill, One Yoga by Yoga Source. So we decided that a couple of years ago to start looking for a new location. And we sort of looked up and down the peninsula for 2 or 3 years trying to find the best spot. Literally, I guess we looked at 15 different places and buildings, always keeping our eye on what was going on in Morgan Hill. And in 2018, I came down on one of my numerous trips to Morgan Hill looking for locations, and saw the for sale sign on the building on the corner there of Depot and 3rd, and thought, what a great location. And, you know, the new downtown revitalization looked incredible, and so we thought this is going to be a great spot for us. So we went through quite an accelerated program to purchase the building. At the time, it was zoned as a mixed use. I think the original developers wanted or had approval for the building to actually to be a restaurant. And so we needed to go through the CUP process with the town, which was just a terrific experience. I've been through the CUP process in Los Gatos now 3 times. It's long and arduous and expensive, and Morgan Hill was fantastic, very quick. I think helped in large part by the fact that our purchase of the property was dependent on us getting approval to use it as a studio. And I know what they're called, the developer anyway, had put some pressure on the town to accelerate things. So anyway, we had unanimous approval to move forward, which we did. The tenant improvements were conducted through 2019, completed just before Christmas 2019. We had a bit of a soft opening period for the week after Christmas into the new year of 2020, at which point in time we had our open house, which is sort of a traditional thing for us in Los Gatos and now in Morgan Hill as well. And that was our formal opening process, and we did that in January 2020. So, you know, if I can, I will actually now show you my. Let me go to full screen here, and I'm going to walk you through the actual location. So. No sound, I muted it because there's some waffling, but this is essentially the studio. So outdoor space, we have the corner access into the retail area. This is the front door. Beautiful porcelain but granite looking stone counters. Pretty expansive retail space. So this is prior to stocking it with the retail clothing. We had a few things here and there, but this is sort of a greeting area where people will come to enter into the studio. The opening to the studio is to the left, but people would proceed through here if they want to put their belongings into the cubbies, or if they want to look at themselves in the mirror, make sure everything is looking good before class. We have 3 toilets, restrooms. This video has been very useful. It was created because we were out of town when the tenant improvement project was finished, and so my manager, I asked her to walk through and give us a look at the whole place. So we have a single shower in here, and a bit of a utility room, changing room. We'll get to the good part in a minute, which is actually the studio. This is all a bit utilitarian here. Storage. Okay, proceeding through back into the retail space. So you've put your clothes, your shoes in the cubby, and now this is the main studio space. So we have these wonderful door handles, which my wife picked up on a trip to India on a yoga training. You can kind of see the mix of Balinese, Indian kind of decor. And here we go. So this is the practice space, including lighting controls. Anyway, large expanse of space of about 15, 16, almost 1,600 square feet of actual practice area. We have these curtains, blind, kind of that hang down, they're just window coverings. They look great from outside and from inside. They offer privacy, of course. So there you have it. So, so that is the beautiful studio we opened and then closed. We were open for, right up until March. We had steadily built our membership base. Thank you, Edith. It was, obviously devastating for us to close both studios in March. But we needed to adapt very quickly. We had only a relatively short period in Morgan Hill to build the local membership base, but we shared memberships across both studios, Los Gatos and Morgan Hill. So if you're a member in one, you automatically got to take classes in the other and vice versa. So that helped add value to the membership offerings. And so immediately upon basically closing, we launched a full comprehensive set of high definition online streaming classes. I have not been a fan of streaming yoga. I'm not shy about saying it. A new organization came to us in January, a gentleman I know quite well from the Yoga Alliance. One of the senior guys had left and started this startup for online streaming, and was telling me about the history. The future of yoga is going to be this hybrid model of people practicing in a room and being streamed from home, and there's going to be a camera in the room with people practicing yoga on the teacher, and it's just the way to go, and it's the future of yoga, and get on board sort of with him. I said to him that I could not disagree more, that the mirror neurons of yoga is about being in the room with people. It's impossible to transmit that over the screen. The sense of community, combined movement, the breath, all of the aspects that make being in a room with other people doing yoga special, just it's impossible. There was plenty of evidence that you streaming yoga places, online services have failed miserably. There had not been a successful business, despite tens of millions of dollars being pumped into trying to create this niche. So we sort of agreed to disagree, and away he went. Well, of course, in March, I called him up and I said, "Hey, that streaming service you're suggesting, how do we get set up?" And so the thing that it enabled us to do was, while all of our competitors, and when I say competitor, any movement business, any gym, any Orange Theory or any other exercise place, essentially had a choice to make. They could either tell their clients, we are closed, and so we can't offer you anything, so we're suspending your automatic monthly dues, which I guess, which as you can imagine, is catastrophic to those businesses. There's a prominent cycling studio that opened in downtown Los Gatos, part of a massive chain, which is now not going to reopen because of that, because that's the decision they made. We went a different way. We said to our members, we are closed for in-studio classes, but we are launching this amazing high-definition online streaming service, offering you the same styles of yoga at the same time of day, with the same great instructors that you love from the studios that you enjoy, both in Morgan Hill, but of course in Los Gatos as well. And we believe we are continuing to provide you incredible value for your membership. And overwhelmingly, our members said, "Okay, we'll stick with you." And so we went through a period of March, April, May, where we maintained the majority of our members stayed with us. We had streaming classes of 200 to 300 people on a stream. So these are people sitting at home, or not sitting, they're doing yoga at home, in a class with another 200, 250 people doing at these popular times. But whether it's I think of it as sort of good news and bad news, things started dropping off. The shine of doing yoga in your living room with no one around to the TV started wearing off a little bit. And we've seen our numbers drop pretty considerably, and along with it, the membership base as well. So, we have majority of our members have now either cancelled or suspended their membership. It's kind of the same thing. We're suspending without cost. And so the difference between suspending and cancelling is essentially the same thing. So, but we have we did a lot to reduce our expenses. We have an agreement in place with our landlord in Los Gatos, where we have we essentially laid it out that we were a terrific tenant for her for 9 years. There's been an unforeseen, event has occurred. And if she sticks with us and gives us some relief on the rent, then we expect to bounce back and be a sustainable business and have a great relationship with her for the next 10 years and onwards. And so she's been great about that. Morgan Hill, we own the building. So we have an SBA loan. So we took advantage of one of the programs available in the CARES Act, which was 6 months of that the government paid the SBA portion of the mortgage, which was, critical for us. But apart from that, the challenge really is to maintain the relationship with our instructors, and the online streaming has given us an opportunity to do that. They have families, of course, who rely on them, and so the streaming classes, whilst they are not financially productive from a profitability perspective, they do give us a source of revenue, which allows us to continue to pay our instructors, which maintains the relationship that we have with these people who essentially are the asset of the studio. The reason people come to Yoga Source or One Yoga is not for the gorgeous building or the heating system or the or the fluffy towels. They come there because they want to take the best classes from the best instructors in the Bay Area. And so we didn't want those instructors to kind of get sick of sitting around and go get a job with Zoom as a product manager or something else. And so they're continuing to do what they love, feed their families, and survive through this difficult time. And so the streaming has been great for us on a couple of different levels, and we will continue it. The challenge will be when we reopen. So we've done a couple of things. We opened outdoors in Los Gatos. We had a large 60-foot by 60-foot tent, which was great. It was great to be able to offer yoga to people. It gave a signal to the community, to our community in Los Gatos, that we wanted to continue and we wanted to move forward and do what we can to offer them classes. It was prohibitively expensive. The tent rental alone was almost $10,000 a month. And what we found was the people who were already paying their membership and doing online classes were now able to simply come and do those classes in a tent. So we got maybe 40 or 50 people who unsuspended their memberships in order to come and practice at the tent, but that did not produce enough revenue to cover the additional cost of the tent. But that's okay. We have a reasonable war chest to get through this, and so we kept the tent August, September, October. As it started getting colder, the numbers in the tent dwindled a little bit. We had a terrible time with the fires, of course. We had to close the tent even outdoors for a week at a time for a few weeks there while the fires raged and the air quality was poor. And the finishing up the tent corresponded exactly with moving to the orange tier for the first time, which we did for a few weeks, I think 6 weeks in November. Into November. Actually, not even 6 weeks, but a few weeks we opened for limited capacity indoor classes, which were very well received. People came back. We weren't sure how people were going to respond to practicing with a mask on inside. The World Health Organization says do not exercise with a mask on. But of course, everyone, there's always contradictory information on both sides. Everyone had to wear a mask. We invested about $15,000 on a UV EDC air treatment system for the studio in Los Gatos, which we'll put a smaller version into Morgan Hill to treat the air, make sure we can purify the air with UVC. And so people came back, had a great experience, and then of course we rolled into this purple tier. So kind of that's where we are now. I have my own predictions on how I think things are going to go. I think everybody probably saw the Santa Clara County announcements yesterday. I live in downtown Los Gatos on Main Street. My neighbor over my back fence is Mike Wasserman. So he and I are in regular dialogue because he never trims his bloody trees. And also because we have a great relationship, also he gives me some insight into what his days are like, 10 hours a day mostly on conference calls with the county. But also gives me some visibility on what's happening and where he thinks, what his predictions are based on the information that he sees. So I personally find it very frustrating to try and keep across every different source of every different piece of information, whether it's vaccinations, whether it's the metrics, whether it's the county, whether it's the state. You know, I'm sure you all experience the same thing. So many different websites, so many different sources. I often find out about moving from one tier to another from one of my staff on social media or from their parents who, before I see it on the Santa Clara County, website. Morgan Hill has been very good at releasing information. The frequency and the content has been terrific and crisp and to the point, and that's really useful. In fact, most often I'll get the email from Morgan Hill before I get any information from Santa Clara County. Anyway, so because we're all in the same county, it applies to everything. My predictions are these. We'll be in the red tier in about 2 weeks' time. The county are very much looking at what's going to happen after the Super Bowl, 2 weeks after Super Bowl, and what type of spike they see in the numbers, the COVID numbers, because of that event. But I expect we'll be within 2 weeks, maybe a little longer, we'll be in the red tier. I think we'll be 3 weeks later. Obviously, you can't jump from tier to you can jump all the way back in tiers, but you can't jump forward in tiers. So I believe we'll be back to the orange tier about three weeks after that. So by mid-April, I think we'll be back in the orange tier. The orange tier allows us to open at 25% capacity, which is enough for us in Los Gatos. Whether it's enough for us in Morgan Hill, I'm not sure. It might only offer us the ability to have classes of 6 or 8 people, which when you introduce the expenses such as daily janitorial services and front desk staff and everything else involved with opening again, it may be a little prohibitive until we move to the next phase. But I do think that by July, everything is going to be open. We're going to be back to normal by July. And when I say back to normal, I mean, I've already talked about the fires, but I often talk to people and say, remember what happened to us just this, last summer? What was the huge event that was just catastrophic? And particularly here living in Los Gatos, I know Morgan Hill people were affected as well. And most people in Los Gatos I talk to say, well, there was COVID, but I don't remember what else there was. I said, literally, it affected us on a level where we were all packing to leave our property in Main Street, Los Gatos. Don't you remember that? And they're like, oh, right. Those fires. And I think that the pandemic is going to be forgotten and people are going to put it into past tense by July as quickly as we neatly packaged up the wildfires, and we packaged that into our memory last year. Anyway, that's my personal prediction. I have a lot riding on it, of course, with both studios. we will, essentially when we reopen, we will send a message to those people who are, once we're reopened in a capacity where people broadly feel comfortable coming back, we will send a message to all those suspended members and offer them the ability to come back at their same cost that they suspended at. They'll have a period of some amount of time to do that. If they don't, they'll come back and our membership will probably be increased by about 20% in terms of cost, because our capacity is going to be reduced. You know, across the board, things are more expensive because of COVID, and I think coming out of it, I think it's going to be the same, and that's people's expectations. So I think I've overdone my time, but that's my spiel. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I have a question, Steve, if I could jump in really quick. I love your prediction of July. I'll keep my fingers crossed on that. But I'm going to ask you about vaccines, and not about your sort of personal thoughts on vaccines, but really business-wise. Do you think, or will you require people to be vaccinated to come back? Is that a part of your reopening business plan?
No.
Not at all.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, we will follow the lead of the industry, I guess. But we are very sensitive. The yoga industry is, how do I put this? Full of a diverse set of people, ranging the full spectrum from, you know, science-based understanding right through to, you know, energy-based understanding, crystals, and you name it. So there is I think if you looked at the anti-vaccination spectrum, you'd find that within the yoga community, we probably have a disproportionately high amount of people who are adverse to getting vaccinated, including some of my staff who are yoga teachers. You know, people.
And I certainly get that part of it. I'm more thinking, and certainly that is part of your calculus because of the business you're in. But I know at the county level, at other levels that are thinking about, you know, it's not part of the tiering today, but, you know, public health is thinking about percentages of people vaccinated to how things are going to open up, to what is allowed to open up, to what percentages are allowed to be opened up. And so I'm wondering, how do you calculate that into your business plan when you're thinking, because you're building a business model, I'm guessing right now, for a July opening. And I guess, you know, you just said vaccines is not a part of the thinking of that business plan.
Well, it is. So we are thinking of a complex opening, a tiered opening that follows the tiered capacity allowed by the county, the state, and any other official that wants to get involved. We are obviously taking into account vaccinations, but only in the context that we will be at herd immunity by spring, because you can look at the data different ways. There's Mindbody Online is the kind of, they have a monopoly on studio management software. It's the yoga studio spa management suite. The president CTO lives just up the road from me in Montessorino, and we have coffee every Sunday morning. Their business is is really looking to now at every possible data source that they can find, to whether it's governmental, private sector, medical, to establish, first of all, the big mystery question, which was, what level of immunity exists in the community outside of the vaccination, outside the vaccine? How much, prior to the testing in 2020, how many people got sick, have some underlying level of immunity from being sick, were asymptomatic during that period, even as testing ramped up in 2020, there were people sick. The undercalculated amount of, I believe, people in you know, these guys believe massively undercalculated the level of immunity that exists already within the community, and on top of that, the success of the vaccinations so far. I mean, we look a little bit negatively on the vaccine situation because the supply isn't quite what we want it to be, but overwhelmingly it's going, I think, pretty well. So the question is, you know, much like the wildfire, COVID burns hot and fast when there is fuel available. In the context of COVID, the fuel is, you know, non-immune population. And that non-immune population is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller by the day, you know, to a point where the CDC, Fauci wants 85%, or Dr. Cody wants 85%, you know, but vaccinations before we can get to herd immunity. We'll be at herd immunity well before that because of the existing immunity, lasting immunity from people who have been exposed already. So my frustration, and I think a lot of business owners and people share the same thing, which is you can't make the level of amount of vaccine, people who've got 2 doses of vaccines and the percentage of people in the community who've got 2 doses, the defining factor for when you open the economy. You can't say we need 85% of the people in Santa Clara to have had 2 doses before you open the economy. That's not how this should work. We should be looking at the numbers. You know, the numbers. 2 days ago, there was 158 new cases. Yesterday, there was 200 and something. You know, in a population of, what's the Santa Clara population? 2 million people, 1.9 something million people, depending what you look at. You know, we are at a microscopic point now of new cases, and yet, you know, I mean, the other metrics that you look at, public health, the mental health, people, business economy, the health of the businesses within the community are suffering so badly. And so this idea that we wait until we get to this magic number of 85% of people in Santa Clara vaccinated before you can start opening, you know, in any, you know, significant way is frustrating. It's short-sighted. I don't agree with it, but I guess, you know, we're at the whimsy of unelected officials here.
Thanks, Steve.
Excuse my frustration.
Oh, I understand it. I appreciate it.
And we certainly hope your predictions are correct in terms of opening everything up.
Well,
any other questions for Steve?
Brittany, invite me back in July, and we'll see. Well, I'll be in the south of France by July, in a villa, watching the Tour de France, hopefully. But anyway, let's be positive.
Absolutely.
I do have a quick question for Steve. Steve, I really appreciate the candor. It's always great listening to you and your thoughts around things. I'm wondering if you can touch on the little bit of retail sales associated with your studio. You know, this obviously a big market shift, and people are doing a lot of stuff independently. Have you been able to leverage your retail platforms at all as kind of a way to balance the fact that the in-person ability to get that personal service has been challenging with COVID restrictions? How have your retail sales evolved?
So we have done very limited retail. You know, we're really a destination retail location. People, you know, when they need a pair of yoga pants, they go to us. We're you know, and I'm talking both studios. You know, we sort of look at it and say, can the revenue from the retail offset the expense of opening the building? You know, and when I talk about opening, I'm talking about the janitorial service, the front desk staff, to have people sitting there. So what we've done in Los Gatos is we've had sort of some shopping events a membership where we've invited people in, one at a time, and had sort of personal shopping excursions. We needed to rotate stock because we had stock that was out of season and out of fashion, so we had to move that at a heavily discounted price. But we don't have enough of a retail footprint either in Los Gatos, which is a little larger retail than Morgan Hill, or in Morgan Hill to offset the cost of those buildings at this point. So yeah. One thing I missed out saying, I guess the thing that's going to help us open when we reopen, and I guess within the community and from a commercial perspective, as we reopen, our focus will be very much on outreach and rebuilding the business and the membership base. And so any kind of cross-promotional activities that we can do in town, we really welcome any opportunity to work with other businesses in town, particularly new residential tenancy. There's the guys over the road. Is it Michael Van Every? Is that right? Obviously I'll reach out to those guys as they tenant their property over the road there to offer, an intro special to come and take classes with us. Things like that are really valuable. If anyone has any ideas about what we could do around town to cross promote, I welcome every opportunity to work with people.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Steve. Let's move right on to Steve Batondo and Morgan Hill Unified School District and an update there.
Thank you. I first want to just thank Dan for describing the EDES building and all that is, really, and also Steve for Yoga Source. In my opinion, those both deal with health of people, cultural health, and when it comes to the art gallery is really touching. One of my pet passions is art, and then physical and spiritual and emotional health with the Yoga Source. Fantastic. Thank you for those presentations. So we've been, and to the development downtown, I just approved this week of the conceptual design for the building that's going to go on the corner of Keystone and Monterey, and sent to the architect for drawings. That'll be the large administration, student union, and cafeteria building. The design's going to be really nice for Morgan Hill. And so that the board hasn't seen that yet. I'm not showing any conceptual designs to anyone yet until we actually get those down. And so that's pretty exciting for Britain and all of Morgan Hill. I am one of those people that several times a day are looking at the different status of COVID and vaccines and such. And yesterday was a monumental moment in time. The fact that we can now get all our educators vaccinated. The 28th is the first date. We've already got several of our staff members that have let me know that they signed up at Levi Stadium. And so we have 800 employees that need to be vaccinated. Well, less than that because some are 65 and over, and some of them had children with underlying health conditions and could get vaccinated as well. But that all aligns with our target. We were talking about the tier system. One of our conditions is that everybody has the ability to get vaccinated. To the question that Larry had about, are you requiring to get vaccinations before actually working for Steve? Well, same question comes to us quite often, and we are not requiring it. However, we do put in place the safety protocols for those that don't get vaccinated if they choose not to. There is no law requiring anybody to get vaccinated at this point. And certainly they haven't even developed vaccines for children yet. The fact is that we have hundreds of students that are in-person instruction right now. We've got 17 classes opening, about 10 more that'll be opening this next week. And we're in a phase system. March 22nd, we have the plans for all students to be able to come back. We have over half the parents that will be sending their kids back March 22nd if the conditions are met. The conditions being that we have vaccines available, which is looking like it's true. The appointments are getting made and people are getting their vaccines. And the other is that we'll be in the red tier. And I agree, Steve, that we will be in the red tier. Actually, right now, the conditions are that we could fit in the red tier as it is today, looking at the conditions daily. You have to be in the red tier for 5 days in a row for the kids to be able to come back. And that's all kids. That's preschool through adult, all our high schools. Right now, all kindergarten through or preschool through 6th grade can be in school. And we have that on a voluntary basis for teachers and parents. So we have a lot of hybrid kids going to school in person and kids at home on Zoom at the same time with our technology package that we've got going. Yesterday's, if I can share screen, is that a possibility? Okay, let me show you as soon as the host allows me to share screen. Thank you. I'm going to show you the areas that are now able to be vaccinated. And this is table 2 under CDC, which is what the state depends on and what the county depends on. These are all the sectors that can get vaccinated as of yesterday. So all food and agriculture, beverage manufacturing, you see all the different categories in education, JCs, colleges and universities. And this means that every employee in Morgan Hill Unified School District can get vaccinated because they all support the education as essential workers. And so what I'll do is, let me see if I can, what I'll do as soon as I stop sharing screen, I will put this link into the chat, and then Brittany, maybe you could share it with even the participants. So these are all the categories now in 1B. And then table 3 is the other area, which is 1C, which you'll see another broad category set. So I'll stop sharing that for a moment. And then let me just put this in for you. So you could all capture that and then look at what those categories are and to check, and actually all of chamber businesses can check and see where they are. And it lists all the categories from before in the purple and on and on. So, and it's a great site for that. So we have a tight timeline, March 22nd, bringing kids back in. What that means is that all kids will have the ability to be in school at some level. Because social distancing is still required all the way through, that might mean that there's 9 kids in each high school class, which means that we have to put them in cohorts. So what we're looking at schedule-wise is probably 4 different cohorts, broad school-wide cohorts, where kids go to school either once or twice a week or twice every other week, so that social distancing could be considered. But that doesn't mean that they have to go to school. We still will do the online distance learning. And so the teachers are getting all those packages of technology where there's cameras in the classroom, speakers and microphones in the classroom as well. Kids at home can see the kids in the class. Kids in the class can see the kids at home. The teachers teaching both at the same time. Or some variation of that. And so we're being flexible with the way the teachers want to set that up. But as you can imagine, a master schedule for secondary is a real tough thing to put together, dividing up the class into quadrants. So again, there may be kids that start a little bit later because maybe the first week they are not starting because they're in a certain cohort. but it certainly allows us to have all the elementary in school. And again, we have classes right now. At the same time, many of you know about the amazing work that collaborative teams put together for our graduation celebration last year. We thank Rotary and Kiwanis, the city of Morgan Hill, for all the participation with our parades downtown and the banners. We had individual diploma recognition, and we had virtual ceremonies for every kid. So it was a trifecta of celebrations that was actually, I heard about it from districts around the state asking for, what did you do in Morgan Hill? So right now we've got a team planning that right now. Mario, thank you for pushing on Rotary to get approval for those, to put up the banners. And I thank you in advance, the city of Morgan Hill, for allowing us to put those graduate banners. And it's not just for Morgan Hill Unified Schools, it's for the other high schools, the private high schools as well, to get those kids' faces up there. That will be a memory for them forever. And it's exciting times putting that together. The high schools are looking at doing a little bit of variation on the diploma confirmation, but we still are looking at doing the videos as well, which was a real hit, to be sitting at home with your family members and having, you know, maybe grandma in New York being able to watch at the same time the students, the seniors getting their diplomas. That's fantastic. Other news, since it is Chamber Economic, we just got our confirmation on our Moody's rating as not moving down at all. As a matter of fact, still the highest credit rating of like districts in the nation. So we're very proud of that. And I would take any questions if you have them or have time for them.
Steve, I got.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Steve. I got a quick question. Thanks for joining us. I've been watching your meetings and looking at your website to learn more about your reopening plan, because I think that reopening schools is just so key to the success of everything. But thinking about your teachers in particular, but the rest of your staff getting vaccinated, if they had a local point, if they had a place in Morgan Hill to get vaccinated, do you think you'd have a faster and much higher percentage of employees getting vaccinated?
Oh, yes. And we've offered actually the Performing Arts Center at Sobrato High School to County Public Health. They still have that in their pocket. They opened the Gilroy one because the concentration of COVID exposures and rates were super high, and more than twice anywhere else in Gilroy. But I understand also the consideration for like over by you all, where the City Hall is, and also as far as the CCC was a consideration. But yes, locally it would obviously be helpful. The other option that we're looking at, we're still trying to, we have nurses and health assistants that are willing to actually vaccinate our employees, but it has to be in cooperation with county health. We have to get their permission. But the 800 people is a lot for one person to do. But we feel that if we get 4 or a half dozen people to do it, then I see some photobombing over there. Edith, that's great. I love it. And that's one thing we encourage all kids and animals to be on people's Zoom photo. So at any time, keeps us up and positive. So yes, we would absolutely want that to happen. As of right now, though, just so you know that Levi's Stadium is taking. I've had since yesterday, a lot of interaction with employees that were frustrated because they couldn't get on, and many that have since got on. So as soon as they allowed for Levi Stadium, we had people trying to go up to Oakland and go through their healthcare provider, but the information was so new that people weren't prepared for that, or the agencies weren't prepared for it. But now Levi is in for sure.
So they're eligible to get vaccinated on the 28th, but they can register now.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So maybe we can talk offline. I work for a company that has pharmacies, and maybe we can figure out a way between our pharmacists, the county, and the school district to create a local point so that teachers and frontline grocery workers can get vaccinated. We just need allocations where all of our pharmacies and our pharmacists are certified to be able to give it. We just haven't been able to get allocations in Santa Clara County.
Oh, that'd be awesome. And
Yeah.
the impact, I think people forget about it. Not the parents that are trying to get to work, but I think the general population forgets that public schools are society's childcare, and until we get the kids in school, at some level, that we can't get our businesses really geared up to get back to work.
Completely agree.
So,
Mhm. Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
mhm.
Okay, any other questions for Steve?
I have a comment. I have a sixth grader and an eighth grader in Union School District here in Los Gatos at Fisher, and it's such a different dynamic between the two kids. One of them who can go back to rooming every second week, and the other one who's stuck on Zoom. It's so from a parent's perspective, it's so important that the kids can get back, and it's terrific to see the change in their character just after a week and a half or a week or so of being in the room with other kids. I know there's a lot of education that happens in the classroom, but I think the majority happens on the playground and in the interaction with the kids, and dealing with conflict and collaboration and social interactions is so important for kids, and they've just been starved of it for so long. So I just see it's just such a great movement forward to get the kids back, and I'm just so looking forward to when my eighth grader can go back as well. So anyway,
Thank
just a
you,
comment.
Steve, for that testimony. And that's what we're seeing. And it's not just the kids, the teachers that have their kids in the classroom right now. We just had a forum of the pilot lead teachers that have brought the kids back in, and their testimony about how fulfilled they feel, and actually emotional for the other teachers. So if there's any teachers that are apprehensive or hesitant about it, and know that it's going to be more work because they're teaching kids at home and in the class at the same time, kind of schizophrenic like in the first few days, these teachers will tell you it's well worth it to bring it back, to bring the kids back. So thank you for that, Steve.
Okay, any other questions for Steve? Thank you very much, Steve. It's good to hear we're getting back to school. And let's see, how about the Planning Commission? Joe, do you have an update from the Planning Commission?
Yeah, the Planning Commission has been meeting, not every meeting normal time. Some of them get canceled. Most of what we're dealing with right now are conditional use permits and design review, and that's because of the impact of all the new state housing laws, right? So a lot of the things that we used to talk about, we don't see them right now. The other thing that's happened is I believe the council approved it, was a tolling of a lot of the permits and entitlements that have been received because of all the inability to actually construct a lot of projects. So that's, I think, was going to go at 18 months. So that'll give some of the developers some breathing room a little bit to hopefully keep projects alive and moving forward. And if, John, I hope I'm not stepping on something you might bring up, but if everybody hasn't seen, Trammell Crow has introduced a new project for the 30 acres right adjacent to Half Road for that project that they had withdrawn. And so there's a email blast went out to the community, so everybody should be aware of it, and you can look at the site design, and it will be proceeding through the process as it goes on. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I guess the one conditional use permit we approved that a lot of people probably already know about, but just so everybody knows about it, there's a major St. Catherine's renewal project going on where they're going to renew the church building. And in the process of doing that renewing, they're expanding it slightly. So it'll seat over 600 when it's done. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Joe? No? Well, then let's move on. Thank you, Joe. And let's move on to the city. John Lang, do you have any update on the city?
Just a couple quick things that I know our city manager was interested in sharing.
John, your audio is very shaky.
Edith, you take over.
Yes, sir. I cannot do justice what John was going to share, but we do have, between both of us, we do have quite a bit of stuff to share. First, let me start with where Joe left off. On the economic development side, there's a couple of things that you should be aware of. One, the Butterfield Technology Project. If you remember, this is the 60-acre project on Butterfield, the big piece of property that there's already dirt moving with a housing project, 386 housing units. Trammell Crow, as the developer, has acquired the permits, everything they need from the city to move forward with that project. That project is 410,000 square feet of new industrial Class A product. They are they're moving forward with that project. A big announcement was on Biz Now that came out this week. Very exciting announcement. And they are already in conversations with a number of light industrial and manufacturing companies that are looking at that particular site. What's exciting about that is that while that project, and Councilmember Carr may remember this, it's been going on for a long time, not until you start moving dirt, companies start looking at you. It's, these projects don't become real until you start moving dirt. So it's exciting to see that there's some companies already looking at that particular site. Joe had mentioned the other Trammell Crow project on the other side of the freeway. This is the big project that they had on Cochrane and 101 by the tree farm. That project at the beginning was looking at the entire 60 acres of land, and they were going to do a general plan amendment. They have withdrawn that application, and instead they're only moving forward with 30 acres that are the industrially zoned 30 acres. And they're moving forward with a similar size project for that, like 500,000 square feet of industrial space. They call that the Redwood Tech. Again, Class A industrial space for that side of town. They have received a complete application letter from the city. That project is going to have large redwood, like 30, 40 feet tall redwood trees as a way to really elevate the character of that particular project. And we're not exactly sure what they're going to do with the other commercially zoned 30 acres and when they're going to come back to bring that project. So those are two of the bigger projects going on. The city is working also on a press release with Shoe Palace, as they have shared with us, and they're going to be sharing it through their press release. They have shared with us that with their new acquisition by JD Sports, which is a British company's shoe company, they are now going to go back to their original plan to utilize and occupy the entirety of the new building. So we expect that the Shoe Palace is going to be moving into the new building by the summer, occupying the entirety of that space. And that is really good news because there was a lot of concern from the community as to what's going to happen with that building. Is that building going to become something else? And it will continue to be the headquarters of Shoe Palace. And, we were looking at that acquisition by JD Sports, wondering if we were going to lose Shoe Palace to another community, if there was going to be a shift, but instead they are doubling down in their commitment to Morgan Hill. And I know that they're starting to get more involved. There was a news article on the MH Times, some activity that they're doing with youth, as well as I know that they are contributing to the Local Heroes program, and they're working with the Boys and Girls Club here in Morgan Hill. And so this is exciting to see their activation here. A couple of other things really quickly. Last night, we went to the City Council with two things. One, the workshop on last mile distribution. The question is, does this community feel that we would be better off with having a last mile distribution, say like a local Amazon distribution facility? After 2 hours of back and forth, the council at this point essentially said, yeah, we still don't see enough benefit for us to even allow that. Even though we're getting the traffic and even though we're getting the deliveries, we're not quite ready to embrace that. We don't see enough reason why to do that. So that was that. Coming also last night at the City Council, the City Council looked at a conditional use permit for a couple of youth sports operators that went into the heavy industrial side of town, and the Planning Commission denied their conditional use permit because it was taking very important, very limited heavy industrial inventory that we have, and also because of the concern of having those sort of family uses in the heavy industrial side of town. Planning Commission had denied it. It got brought to the City Council for reconsideration, and the City Council allowed and reversed the Planning Commission's action, saying, well, we also at the same time want to support local companies and want to support youth, so let's move this one forward, but come back to us very quickly to clean up the zoning code so we don't have these conflicts going forward. So John and team are working to come back to both the Planning Commission and City Council to engage on further cleanup of the zoning code. And this might be something that you might be interested in the context of industrial preservation. We have, I think that's on the job side. I don't know that we have a lot more to share on the job front. But on the other side, John was going to share. And John, are you back? I see that you logged off and you logged back on.
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh, very good. Perfect timing. You share the broadband and the other stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, real quickly, just to remind folks that are here, we have an upcoming workshop on broadband. This had been in the works prior to all the events of February 3rd and the fiber cut, but it's being retooled a little bit. But next week, we're going to do a workshop ahead of the City Council meeting to talk about broadband and understand it and get a better handle on what happened and then kind of what the path forward is. And that will start a series of a total of 3 conversations, but it starts next week. So February 24th is the first meeting on broadband. Additionally, tonight, in partnership with Leadership Morgan Hill and the city, there is a workshop this evening with Senator Laird and Assemblymember Rivas, getting to know your Sacramento leaders. That will be happening tonight. And there was one more item. Oh, Edith touched on the Titan mast CUP reversal or approval, I should say, that occurred last night, where the updates I know our city manager wanted to communicate to everyone on the call.
Okay. Any questions for Edith or John? No, well, thank you both. Thanks for the update from the city. We are at 9:30. Yes, Brittany?
Alex, did you have a question?
Actually, I don't have a question so much, other than I was just able to log on for whatever reason. My system wouldn't allow me to, although I've been listening all along. Do you have about 2 minutes for me to give an update of what's been happening in the last year from the Open Space Authority?
Sure, absolutely.
So, due to the pandemic and the maintenance of people's sanity, what's left of it, our preserves have seen an over 400% increase in participation. And the closest one, of course, is the Coyote Valley Reserve, which many of you have been to. That 300-acre preserve is now about to be a little over 3,000 acres, as we've obtained the Tilton Ranch. And so basically, the Open Space Authority now stretches from Morgan Hill to past Palm Avenue. And we've also closed on the North Coyote Valley 900 acre, almost 1,000 acres that was going to be developed many years ago, if you recall, before 2000. That's now part of, which will be eventually joined up with that. And then we're announcing we're going to open our Coyote Ridge Reserve, which is on the east side. So basically from Bailey Road back down to Morgan Hill will be part of the Open Space Authority. So people have been using our preserves, as I said, to an astonishing rate. And we hope that that helps our sanity, and I'll keep you apprised. So plus we have more to come, which I can't divulge right now. So there you go.
Well, thank you.
If I may, Alex, just real quickly, let's make sure we connect you with Visit Morgan Hill, Krista Rupp, so we can get some visibility on these announcements. This is great, and we should be promoting this.
Happy to do so.
Okay, well, thank you, Alex. Any other questions? If not, we're at 9:37. I thank you very much for everybody attending. We do want to try and keep this to an hour and a half as much as possible. Thank you, and we'll see you hopefully next month. Same Thursday morning.